Hello and welcome. This is We Talk Football. It's been a little bit of a while since we made a video. I think the last video we made was at the beginning of the Euro 2024 Championship, reviewing the Germany. Who are they playing against? Germany versus Scotland game, and that was an excellent game. That was a very fine start to the tournament. But today's video will be all about reviewing the Euro Championship and the Copa America tournaments. So I think both tournaments were excellent. But before we get into that, please remember to like and subscribe to our channel at We Talk Football 24. That's our YouTube channel. And also follow us on Instagram at We Talk Football 24 and also on Facebook at We Talk Football. So I wanted to look at both tournaments, mainly the final games. Yeah, basically I wanted to look at the final between Spain and England, and in the South America, Copa America, between Argentina and Colombia. So let's look at the Euro Championship final first between Spain and England. Obviously, Spain won 2-1 against England. To me, I think, and I think to a lot of people as well, Spain have been or were the best team in the tournament. They were excellent. They played, I think, more than anything, what we saw from Spain is, I think it's arguable that they didn't have the best players in the tournament. You could say France had a better squad of players. Portugal had a better squad. Even England themselves, who they played in the final, had a better, squad and squad depth than the Spanish themselves. But I think more than all the teams in the tournament, Spain had an identity of how they wanted to play. They wanted to use their wing players, Lamine Yamal and Nico Williams, who both, they both grew into their own. Or let me not say they grew into their own, but this is the beginning. It could be the beginning of them, getting into their primes. It's really scary to say that because they're both so young. Nico Williams is 21 and Lamine Yamal, who won the play of the tournament, is only 17 years old, and he just turned 17 years old during the tournament. The man was still, writing and doing his homework during the championship. In between games, he would do his homework. And so that is a little bit scary to think he's already reached such a high level in football, where he's winning the Euro Championship, he's winning the Young Player of the Year award, and he's still only 17. You can only imagine, especially coming from the academy, the La Masia Academy of Barcelona, and looking at players who've come through like Iniesta and Xavi and obviously Messi, and what those guys have achieved in their careers, being one of the greatest footballers that we've ever seen. Maybe he could be in that conversation as well. I think it's highly possible with the talent that he has, with the start that he has had already, but talking about the whole Spanish squad, I think they had an identity. The manager, De La Fuente, had a real identity of how he wanted Spain to play. And I think that's how Spanish football and Spanish teams have played over the years. They play a really good ball possession based kind of football. They move the ball really fast. They rely heavily on a really strong midfield, to which they had, I think, Rodri. I think now Rodri could say he is the best midfielder in the world. He's won more trophies. He's won 8 trophies than he's lost in the past year. So he's won 8 trophies in the past year or so, and he's only lost 4 games in the same time span. That is insane. and I don't think that's a coincidence. That's both for Manchester City and for Spain. Um, and he's won the Champions League Player of the season. Not this season, but last season. He has won now the Euro Championship Player of the Tournament for the 2024 tournament, and I think he has a genuine case of being the best midfielder in the world now. It's hard to argue against him. Of course, there's still players like Kevin De Bruyne, Jude Bellingham, but I think the consistency that he's shown, the high level that he's shown is really good. You might say that some players have reached a higher peak, but they've also dipped lower than he has, which I think he's reached a high peak, but he stayed consistent. And partnering him was what's his name again? No, I forgot. But his let me see. His partner had a really good tournament, I think, and I think the Spanish midfield was really consistent. The Spanish midfield, I think the Spanish midfield is something that's always been a huge part of how Spain plays. And Fabian Ruiz. Fabian Ruiz had an excellent tournament as well, and I think the Spanish midfield is something that is extremely important. It's the engine, going back to players like Guti, and following on to that with Iniesta and Xabi Alonso and Busquets. They've always had really good midfielders, Thiago Alcantara. Now they have Rodri, Fabian Ruiz. And earlier on in the tournament, in the last 8 against Germany, they lost Pedri, but Dani Olmo really slotted in very nicely in that number 10 position. He actually ended up with the most goals in the tournament, 3, but of course he shared that prize with a few other players like Harry Kane. But talking about Spain, I think they were the best team in the tournament by far. They were not my pick. My first choice pick were Portugal. I thought Portugal looked great. I thought they were primed to win the tournament. They did not, of course, but they played. I don't think they played really well. And for me, in my opinion, I think it's just down to Roberto Martinez. I think if they had a better manager, who was strong enough. For example, manager was strong enough to drop Cristiano Ronaldo when he had to. Maybe Portugal would have had a better chance, but they didn't perform to to on paper what their squad had to deliver. So congratulations to Spain, they played well. On the other side, you had England. I think they had a good tournament, but it could have been better. In my opinion, I think that they had moments where they relied on their individuals more than having a set system or a plan where they would play. Because if you remember, in the first 2 games, they played Trent in midfield. And in a big tournament like that, you need to be absolutely sure of the players that you choose in those positions. And from the first game, you can see that Trent was not a midfielder. He was not supposed to be playing in midfield, and he struggled. That was changed. And throughout the tournament, you saw Kobe Mainoo, who was superb. He was one of the best players, I think, of the tournament. Seriously. And but that example of having Trent and then changing the whole midfield and putting in a young player like Kobe Mainoo, where you should have had that planned way before the tournament began. And I think that showed me that England didn't really have a plan. And I think that showed because of the numerous individual performances and moments that they had, from Jude Bellingham scoring the equalizer against Slovenia, and Bukayo Saka's late equalizer to against, was it against the Netherlands? I think it was against the Netherlands. Yeah, against the Netherlands, to even no, it wasn't against the Netherlands. Who were England playing against when they equalized, when Bukayo Saka equalized? Oh, Switzerland. Yes, Bukayo Saka scored against Switzerland, a late goal. The Netherlands, it was Ollie Watkins scoring a late winning goal. That is awesome. I think that is really great to have, individuals that can step up in big moments and score big goals. But you can't rely on that game in and game out. Even in the final, they had Cole Palmer scoring a late goal to bring them back into the game. But you can't rely on moments like that to win you tournaments where, each game there's someone pulling you out of trouble. You need to have a system where you know what you do. You need to have, a starting 11 that you really trust. It didn't look like Southgate had had a starting 11, a core system that he trusted, a core, group of players that he trusted to say, okay, and this for the tournament, you guys are going to be the ones who are going to be starting, and maybe these particular players will be coming off the bench. It was really, it was almost like unplanned guesswork, where some games he would bring on Ollie Watkins, some games he would bring on Ivan Toney, some games he would bring on Cole Palmer or Eberiche Eze. Didn't really look cohesive, didn't really look strong. So, but I think, they had, relatively to, the whole, tournament and how everything panned out, I think they had a really good tournament. They reached another final. Unfortunately for them, they didn't, get over the line. There's a part of me that wanted England to win because, I wanted my boys to, lift the trophy. Bukayo Saka playing for Arsenal, Declan Rice, Aaron Ramsdale. But I'm happy for David Raya playing for Spain to win, European Championship and international trophy. That is huge. So England, I think England could have done a lot better than what they did. A lot of their players underperformed. I think Declan Rice didn't really have a good tournament. I don't particularly think Jude Bellingham had a good tournament. Phil Foden didn't have a good tournament. 0 goals, 0 assists from Phil Foden, from the PFA Player of the Year. Didn't really have a good tournament. Didn't really put a stamp on any game, on the tournament as a whole. I think that's also down to what I said earlier on. No system, no cohesive plan, where he was put on the left with, in many games, with Kieran Trippier. And I think his best position would be playing in the number 10 position, the number 10 role, where he's creating goals, scoring goals, but he didn't really have a lot of chances to play there. But yeah, I think, in the end, the best team won. Spain, they look really good. Also, they're so young. As I said, I mentioned Nico Williams, 21, Lamine Yamal, 17. You have Rodri. I think Rodri is still... How old is Rodri? Let me see. Rodri is still quite young as well, and I think he's got a long way to go. Rodri is only 28 years old. He's not like, of course, he's not completely like super young, but he's in, the prime of his career. And I think going into the 2026 World Cup, he's going to be 30, still fit, still playing at a high level, I assume. You still have Dani Olmo, still playing at a high level, still really good, just really young. Dani Olmo is only 26 years old as well. You have players like, David Raya, still young as well. He could come in and, do a really good job. Fabian Ruiz is still only 28 as well. So there's a future for Spain where you could see them, moving forward and playing great and still dominating football like they did. Maybe if you, I'm not saying they will reach the peak years of Spain, 08, 010, 2012, where they won 3 tournaments in a row, but you could see them really dominating football for quite a while. Maybe going into the next World Cup, they might be favorites with, as we're going to talk about Argentina. Argentina have won their third major tournament in a row. Superb, but you also look at the squad. Di Maria just retired today. I don't know if Messi's going to be playing in the 2026 World Cup. He already looks, a bit older. He doesn't look older. He is a bit older in football age. He plays older. He was substituted today because of an ankle injury. So you don't see Messi dominating football like he did, all those years back and recently. So you look at Spain and you think if they keep the core group of the players that they have, they could go on and win the World Cup as well in 2026. And talking about the Copa America tournament, that was also a really good tournament. I think, Argentina, in my eyes, I think Colombia was slightly the better team overall in the tournament. They had a really good tournament. They scored the most goals. They beat who did they beat? They beat Panama 5-0 in a knockout game. That is insane. For a team like Colombia to beat another team in a knockout game. Knockout games are usually very edgy, very close, tight. So you don't have a lot of goals. But for a team to, score 5 goals in one game, that is incredible. And so Colombia did that against Panama. I think James Rodriguez was the player of the tournament. He had 6 assists and 1 goal. That is amazing. For a team like Colombia, you would have been looking at Brazil to make it to the final. You would have been looking at other teams. Uruguay looked like they had a good team as well. They had a good coach, Bielsa, and they had a good core of, solid players like Federico Valverde and Darwin Núñez and Suarez still. I think Suarez is still playing at a high enough level to, score goals. But of course, that didn't happen for Uruguay. They ended up playing for the 3rd, 4th playoff game. But Colombia played really well, I think, in the tournament. As I said, they scored the most goals. But I think they were slightly the better team in the tournament. But, Argentina are... Right now, I would say that Argentina are in the middle of... Or maybe not in the middle, but maybe they're at the tail end of a prime dynasty. The tail end of a prime dynasty. They look so solid. I don't think they play the best football in the world, of course, but they play really solid football where it's hard to beat them. It's hard to score against them. And usually when they go 1-0 up, they win the game. In the tournament, let me see. In the tournament, they only conceded 1 goal. Yeah. Can you imagine that? They only conceded 1 goal against Ecuador. In the quarterfinal, the game ended in penalties. You remember the game? Messi tried to chip and hit the crossbar. I think that was a little bit of a scary moment for Argentina, where the captain, the greatest player, of all time, trying to be fancy. He tried to do that. He did that in the World Cup. Remember in the World Cup final where he took up the penalty, the first penalty in the World Cup final, and it was a really laid back, really soft penalty. Hugo Lloris didn't read that, and if he did, he would have saved it. I have no doubt. And I've always, ever since Messi did that 2 years ago, I've always felt like, that was a risk. That was risque. That was as risque as it can get in a World Cup final. And he did that again in the Copa America quarterfinals against Ecuador. This time he did miss. And I felt like he was too relaxed. He was too laid back with his penalty. He wasn't very lucky. But they managed to get through, of course. I remember I even tweeted after Messi, took that penalty, and I said, "It's almost time. I think it's almost time for Messi to call a game. It's almost time for Messi to retire." Because not only because of the penalty, but I think because of the performances that he's been delivering. I don't think he shows energy. He's not as fast as he used to be. In some ways, I think he does slow down the Argentinian attack. I love Messi. I think he's the greatest player of all time. But I think, the times of Argentina relying on him heavily are coming to an end, if they are not at the end. And I think they should be trying to look at the future and what they could be doing with, upcoming players for the upcoming tournaments. Because I do think they have a young enough squad with players like Romero and Lisandro Martinez. They still at a young enough age to continue playing on. They still have Emi Martinez. I think Emi Martinez is world class. They still have McAllister, De Paul, and Enzo Fernandez in midfield. Enzo Fernandez, of course, that is not impressive for Chelsea, but when he plays for Argentina, he seems to play at his best. So I think those players still have so many more years to go for Argentina. You still have Lautaro Martinez and Julian Alvarez. You have Alessandro Garnacho coming into this, to the Argentinian fold. So you do have players, Lo Celso, Gonzalez. You do have a core group of players that can take Argentina forward. They could challenge or maybe even win the next World Cup. I do genuinely believe that because of the players that they have. Even without Messi and Di Maria, we saw a few games, like we saw the final, Argentina win against Colombia. Of course, Messi left the game, and that was huge with an ankle injury, but Argentina still won. There's a game, I think that was the final group game. The final group game against Peru, they played without Messi, and they won that 2-0. So you see, I think there are signs that you can see with Argentina where they could still go on and build on from this and still win more trophies, even without Di Maria and Lionel Messi. I think a key to that is Lionel Scaloni. He's such a good coach. The players love him. The players follow him as a leader, as the man of the team. People always talk about Messi as the leader of the Argentina national team, but I think as much as we give Messi credit, I think you should give Lionel Scaloni a lot of credit as well, as the manager, as the coach of that team, where he came in at the back of Argentina not doing very well at the 2018 World Cup, being beaten by France in the last 16 4-3. Historic big game. And I think that was a big game because, Argentina lost 4-3. But if you look at the scoreline, you would have thought, wow, Argentina did well, even though they lost. But in reality, they were just floundering. They were going nowhere, very, very slowly. Lionel Scaloni came in, took over, and gave Argentina a direction, gave them an identity of how to play. They can play really beautiful football like we saw in the first half of the 2018 World Cup. Actually, for let me say, for about 80 minutes of the World Cup final, they were the best team. They played the ball really well, movements, moved the ball fast, and I think that's down to Lionel Scaloni. So he's as much to get credit for the Argentinian success in the past 3 years as anyone else, as Messi and Angel Di Maria, as anyone really. So I think with him at the helm, even without Messi and Di Maria, they still have a chance to challenge really well for major tournaments. So the Copa America, I think, was really good. It was a really good tournament. It was unfortunate with some of the organization from CONMEBOL, the CONCACAF football body, as they organized the tournament, especially in the final, where you saw a lot of fans, especially Colombian fans, of course, trying to get into the stadium for free, people getting injured, getting hurt. That was poor organization. And it's also a little bit scary because that was in the USA, and the host country for the 2026 World Cup will be, one of the countries to host the 2026 World Cup will be the USA. Of course, Canada and Mexico will be involved in that. Hopefully that gets solved, that gets fixed. But yeah, I think it was a really good tournament. Player of the tournament for me, James Rodriguez. Of course, I think he did win that award, rightfully so. Messi didn't really have a great tournament. He only scored 1 goal, but he had a few assists. That was excellent from him. At that age, I think he's still playing at a really good level. Unfortunately, he injured his ankle really badly, which I know I've injured my ankle, recently a few times. That is, trust me, that is hard. It's a world of pain, and I understand what he went through. Of course, I think he felt a bit more heavier because it was a final of a major tournament for Argentina. So, but it's good to see that, in the end, Argentina won. And I think now he can look forward to going back to Inter Miami. Inter Miami would be looking for, or they would have been looking forward to having him back. Unfortunately, he has an injury. Maybe he'll be laid out for a few months. I hope he comes back as soon as possible because, Inter Miami have a great chance of winning the MLS league. So, yeah, a few questions, to close the video. Going back to the Euro Championship, what do you think England should do to win a tournament? Of course, they finished in the semi-final of the 2018 World Cup. They didn't get over the line. Then they got to the final of the 2021 Euro Championship. They got to the quarters of the World Cup in 2022, beaten by France, who got to the World Cup. And now they reached another final, another European Championship final, coming up short against Spain. Do you think they should change their manager? They have a good core of players. In England, they believe they have another golden generation. I do believe they have another golden generation. They have one of the best players in Spain, or if not the best player in Spain, Jude Bellingham, the best player in Germany, Harry Kane, the best player in England, Phil Foden, Declan Rice, Bukayo Saka, John Stones. We saw Mark Gay have a really good tournament. Konza looks excellent, looks really good. You had other players that didn't make it to the tournaments, Jack Grealish and Rashford. But you have so many good players for England. Do you think they should change their manager? What do you think will be the future for Spain? Do you think they'll go on another run where they win another tournament, another Euros maybe, or the World Cup? Those are some of the questions to close off the video. What do you think will be the future for Argentina? Di Maria just announced his retirement from international football. Do you think they will continue to win. This is an interesting one. This is an interesting one, I think. Do you think that Argentina, with what they've done recently, are the greatest team of all time, winning three tournaments, in a row, 21 Copa America, 22 World Cup, 24 Copa America? Is this the greatest dynasty of all time? What do you think? Um, um, yeah. What about Colombia? Do you think Colombia have a good enough squad to challenge for something in the future? Maybe, I'm not sure about the World Cup, but maybe the next Copa America. What do you think? Let me know. Please comment down below. Remember to follow us on all our social media platforms. At we talk football 24. Sorry, at we talk football 24. That's YouTube, at We Talk Football 24 on Instagram, and at We Talk Football on Facebook. Thank you very much. That was really great. I look forward to hearing from you. I look forward to reading your comments. Tell me what you think, and now we look forward to the next thing in football, transfer window. The new season is going to be coming up. Some teams have begun their preseason preparations and games. So that's really excellent for us football lovers. So, yeah, anyway, thank you very much for coming through. And I'll see you next time. Take care. Yo.